There it is, the Great Seal of the state of California. That means we are in the morning recess out here in Los Angeles. And I'm Michael Alon, coming to you from just outside the Los Angeles County Courthouse. What a morning for the prosecution as they get out there. Dr. Alon Steinberg, cardiologist, and he lays out 6 points of extreme, basically he failed. Dr. Conrad Murray failed Michael Jackson. Gross negligence here, and that's what caused Michael Jackson's death. We have our experts with us. Joining me right here in Los Angeles, criminal defense attorney John Manuel. And John and I have been watching it together. And John, I'll start with you on this one. 6 points, and they were laid out clearly. This cardiologist was a very good teacher, and you and I were talking, wondering, how's the defense going to deal with this?
Yeah, it's very methodical. It's not like yesterday's testimony. It's not boring. He's almost professor-esque. He's speaking to the jury. He's using his hands. He's breaking it down into forms that the jury's going to understand. There's 6 points that he laid out, and these are the 6 points that the defense has to come in, and they have to cross-examine the doctor and have to dispel every single point. And ultimately, this is what the case is all about. It's the battle of the experts, Mike, and that's what I've been saying. If they believe the cardiologist in this case, if they believe the prosecution's witness in this case, then the defense has to come back and discredit them. That's what they need to do at this point.
Okay, I want to let and I'll get everybody weigh in just a moment, but let's listen. Again, this is one of these simple, powerful moments, soundbite if you will. Again, this is Dr. Alon Steinberg just basically laying out Murray, saying it was gross negligence, plain and simple. Let's listen to that and we'll talk about it. Alon Steinberg, I want to bring in our doctor, Dr. Richard Furshine. Doctor, as you listen to this, point by point, 6 points, pretty powerful, wasn't it?
Very powerful, and he really, Dr. Steinberg really got to the meat of the question. You know, this is a case that is going to be built on whether or not this doctor acted appropriately in the situation, and this doctor laid out 6 points that lead us to believe there were some significant problems in terms of how this doctor actually performed in this crisis. And I'll tell you, there are some specific problems that some specific issues here. You know, propofol is a very powerful medication. It's used in a hospital setting, but as the cardiologist pointed out, this is a medication that's also used in office settings by cardiologists and gastroenterologists, and that means that there are specific protocols that we have to follow. When you use a strong anesthetic, particularly a very quick acting anesthetic, problems can occur very quickly as well. So you need to have a very clear understanding of the medication.
Forgive me for interrupting. Right, that's a great point, and they laid it out there. You need a team of people. Dr. Conrad Murray, at a home setting, could not possibly monitor his patient, Michael Jackson, properly, and basically he was playing roulette with Michael Jackson's life. That's the inference, I believe, to the jury. We're back with more in a moment. Welcome back. I'm Michael Alon, coming to you from just outside the Los Angeles County Courthouse. Been following the Michael Jackson death trial. This is day 11. What a morning for the prosecution as they bring out a strong, credible, and a guy you easily understand. Dr. Alon Steinberg, his cardiologist, laid out 6 points of gross negligence from Dr. Murray that led to Michael Jackson's death. This is the list, and there was so much there, we kind of lost a point or two, but this is the way we have it now, and we stand to be corrected. But number one, propofol as a sleep aid. You don't do that. Number two, giving propofol at a home without proper monitoring equipment. Improper preparation for any complications was number three. Number four, improper care during arrest. Number five, failure to summon emergency help. Call 911. The cardiologist says that's basic. And number six, failure to maintain medical records. So you know what's going on here. You're following blood pressure, vital signs. What have you eaten? All those things not there. 6 points that are going to be tough for the defense to overcome. John Manuel, let's bring you back in. You've done a good job. You know, this is, again, let's make the point, it's the prosecution side of the case, and John, you've done a good job pointing out, hey, defense is still to come, here's how they might combat this. Well, what about all this stuff? This guy was good and he was powerful, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was excellent, but what the defense needs to do is break it down one by one. Going over the first one, he would, for example, say, what was your... go over the propofol. Remember, there was an expert that testified that you could use propofol during refractory insomnia. So he's got to break that down and say that propofol can be used in certain situations. He needs to go in and show that the medical equipment was enough to service Michael Jackson. So he needs to go over all the 6 points and dispel every single one of those points so that they could diffuse what the prosecution just did on the direct.
Hey, let's listen again. Dr. Steinberg, and he's talking about The extreme deviation, and we've talked about it many times, the CPR improperly done. I mean, this, number one, you call 911, but aside from that, we all know that. You get somebody on a hard surface and you do it with two hands, not one. We hear Murray's description from the security guard that it's this one-handed compression. If we have that, let's listen to that, guys. Let's bring back Dr. Richard Furshine. Doctor, and we've talked about this, in the defense early on in the trial tried to, kind of minimize that, the one-handed CPR. But here we're hearing not only was he doing it wrong, and he's supposed to be a cardiologist, number two, he wasn't even supposed to be doing it all. This was a respiratory arrest.
What happened, I believe, in this case is he panicked. And when he did not have the right equipment, the doctor said very clearly, you want to have blood pressure monitor, heart rate monitor. You want to make sure that you know the oxygen saturation and that you know what the vital signs are. In this case, he really didn't have that information handy, and that's where I think the critical piece fell through. The next part was that he needed to act and do proper CPR. He didn't have the backboard that he needed to give the proper chest compressions if he was to give them. And the next step that he needed to take was to make sure that he called someone in to help him in this crisis, 911, or someone else who would be available to take care of this problem.
And again, John, simple is best, obviously, with the jury. When you look at me, I'm a prospective juror. That stuff is simple. Number one, and the cardiologist said it, you call 911. We all know that. You don't have to be a trained medical professional. And then you're making you make a call to Michael Jackson's assistant, Michael Amir, and you don't even tell him to call 911. Instead of just saying, Michael Jackson's in trouble, call 911. Click. His explanation in the transcript is, I didn't have time to explain anything. There's nothing to explain. Call 911. Simple.
Well, the defense could argue that Murray did actually call for help when he went down to the kitchen and asked the chef, Kai Chase, to summon for help. They can make an argument that that was his call for help, his 911 call. And also remember, he is a trained cardiologist. You have a doctor in the room who's taking care of MJ. Who better to perform the CPR and the procedure than a cardiologist? So that's going to be the defense argument. But the problem with that is going to be he didn't do it right. So the defense needs to come out and explain, all right, great, you're a cardiologist. You're supposed to be better than the paramedics. But what did you do? Why did you do it wrong? So they need to go over that with the cardiologist right now on the stand.
And just as you laid that out, that's going to be a huge problem. If you're the defense, yeah, he's a cardiologist, and as a jury, you're thinking, well, okay, he's a cardiologist, maybe he can do it as well as paramedics. But then you get today's cardiologist, Dr. Alon Steinberg, saying all the things you need if you're a responsible cardiologist, and you've got to, number one, have the humility to know you can't save him. You need equipment and drugs that you didn't have ready to go. So you call 911, and even before that, you should have had the stuff ready, right, John?
Yeah, and remember, this is their expert, so of course their expert is going to say that Conrad Murray did everything wrong. We have to actually wait until the defense goes on. I'm sure the defense is going to present experts that are going to say that Conrad Murray did everything according to their standard of care, that he didn't breach or deviate from the norm. So at this point in time, it's normal that Murray is being beat up by the prosecution's expert witness, but we have to wait and see.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Much more on the Michael Jackson death trial coming up. Want to let you know we're in break right now. Once proceedings continue, we're going to take you right back into the courtroom. You know it's going to be interesting as the defense cross-examines this cardiologist who was so powerful for the prosecution. Keep it right here.